We'll start with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, and for the roll call, the only one we're missing is Director Hackett. He called me earlier and said he might not be here, or he might be a little bit late if he is able to show up. So I have two things to start out with for board member comment. Well, three things actually. First, Abigail, welcome for the first meeting here today. The other one, Mr. Schultz, thank you for being here today, and looking forward to sharing your legislative content with us. And then, you know, one of the awkward things that we do every meeting is accept donations. And I just wanted to call out, we again had $28,000 in donations. So 25,000 from the Royalton Fire Relief matching the T-Mobile fund. And from the Optimist Club, there's $3,000 to go towards robotics. So just wanted to say thank you to those organizations as well on behalf of the board. And with that, we will swear Abigail in. So if you'd like to stand, you've already got to do this last month. And raise your right hand. You don't have to repeat anything. Just say I do at the end. I swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Minnesota, and will faithfully discharge the duties of student school board representative serving Independent School District 485 to the best of my judgment and ability.
I do.
Awesome. Go ahead and have a seat. All right. Next, I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Wait for motion.
Director Holmes, thank you.
Second.
Director Trevor, thank you. All right, any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, motion carried. Next, we go into presentations from the Spanish Club.
I believe the advisor, like Madison, went to go locate where the girls are. I do believe two of them are on the basketball team, so they had the first night of practice. So.
We can bring in reports in there. That's not good. All right. Recognition of citizens' principal purpose. Okay. Next is we'll go right into the legislative update. So it's all you. Where's yours?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the record, I am State Representative Isaac Schultz. I represent House District 10B, which covers portions of 5 counties here in central Minnesota. Royalton is near the heart of my district, and honored to be with you this evening to provide a little bit of an update from the state legislature. We have passed the state budget, which, and I'll try and keep my remarks primarily through the lens of education this evening, and then take your questions and the topics that you would like to most touch on this evening. First off, the state budget did actually see a reduction in this budget. So it went from about $72 billion to about $66 billion overall. The education picture in the short term is stable. The next 2 years, or 2 years from now, we're expecting to see a decrease in education funding to K-12 education. And that's primarily driven by the fact that the state still has a $2.5 billion budget deficit in our tails, or our out years, 2 years from now. And so each of the different budget areas, from the Department of Human Services to education and other areas, are seeing reductions. It's just that area specifically around special education is likely to see the largest cost reductions in years to come. And it's important for you to know that, to prepare for it, as it's going to likely impact local districts. There's going to be a lot of local school board members from across the state who are going to have a role in shaping what that looks like. It's not directly directed by the legislature as to how that's going to happen. And certainly economic factors for the state could change that outlook. And there's certainly a possibility that it could improve or get worse. And we need just to be aware of that economically for the sake of the state and the funding that comes from the state level. So one very positive thing in my eyes is that we're not seeing new mandates on K-12 education or school districts based upon this budget. However, while I see that as good news, we also weren't able to provide relief from the previous 65+ new mandates that were added in the previous biennium. You all are working through the READ Act and its implementation, in addition to a whole host of other mandates. The workforce mandates are especially costly for school district budgets, from paid family medical leave that begins on January 1st of next year to the earn sick and save time. And while we sought to make progress on those issues, there was not the appetite from the left on the political aisle to see any changes to that at this time. So from a budgetary perspective, those are some of the main things that are happening for school districts at the moment. But also mentioned that from a state perspective and nationally, the conversation over Title IX and women's sports is something that the legislature sought to address this year. In the House of Representatives, we did take a vote to really clarify that in state law and direct the state high school league to make girls sports only for girls sports. And only for girls, I should say, and the direct implications to bathrooms and locker rooms and the like. And all Republicans in the legislature, both the House and Senate, voted for that, but there were not the votes from Democrats. There was no Democrat who joined us in that effort to clarify that. And unfortunately, while Democrats had the complete control of state government 2 years ago, they made a decision to add additional language to the Minnesota Human Rights law, which has then been challenged. And the Supreme Court in Minnesota, the Minnesota Supreme Court made a recent decision, I want to say it was 2 weeks ago, really stating that Minnesota's position is that biological men can participate in women's sports. And that is the current principle that's guiding the state high school league at this moment in time. As you know, that puts us in direct conflict with federal law. And so that is certainly something that is happening in public discourse. It looks like you tonight are having a discussion about it on your agenda. And I know that school districts across the state are having this conversation. It is my belief that this is one of the political issues of our time, and that this is going to be decided ultimately by the people. And so the next election in 2026 is likely to shape the future of the state. The governor and all the statewide offices, as well as the legislature, both the House and the Senate, will be on the ballot next November. And depending upon the direction that goes, we'll likely see changes in one direction or the other. The other thing that we should just note is certainly the federal government has made, I'll just call them threats, to states across the country who have not been adhering to federal law as it relates to Title IX. And in the short term, because of the last 40 days worth of the government shutdown, it's my understanding that the Trump administration staff that would have been working on that was furloughed. And so it was delayed in the short term. However, we could see now that appears to be wrapping up, that there will be potentially action coming from the federal government towards the state of Minnesota, towards either school districts or the Department of Education in Minnesota or the State High School League, that could result in consequences down to local levels. Now, Royalton isn't going to stand out different from other school districts across the state. It's going to be amidst the whole of what that legal battle will likely play out. And I do believe that based upon what the Supreme Court said in Minnesota versus what is law at the federal level, that we basically have conflicting laws, and that will have to be decided at some level within the court system. So important for you to know that. When it comes to the next legislative session, and before I move on from that, I do also want to thank the members of the board who have signed the letter in regards to Title IX and been a part of a coalition just saying that we want to protect girls' sports. I find that to be really important. But you know, I looked at the list of members across the whole of the state, and I personally think that the district that I represent is the best represented probably in the state. And so thank you to those of you who signed that. Then when we look at education and our schools and the safety of our kids. And especially following what has been a tragedy of frankly a summer here in Minnesota, from the murder of the former Speaker of the House, Melissa Hortman, to the Annunciation school shooting that happened at the beginning of the school year, to Charlie Kirk being murdered at a higher education campus. School safety is certainly a major topic that is going to continue to take place in the public sphere here in Minnesota and across the country. There is a very unlikely possibility that there will be a special legislative session to deal with school safety, and instead we are likely to have that as a primary conversation for the 2026 legislative session. That legislative session begins February 17th and will run until May 9th. So about a 3-month period of time where all of the people at the table will be able to have that conversation, and it won't be done in private, or it will be a fully public conversation about how we're going to best address school safety and the safety of our kids. And I will just say there's been a number of different proposals that have been thrown out there. Certainly the political left has focused very much on the guns, but I think the number one thing that we should be doing, and what Republicans have been talking about, has been about securing our schools and helping school districts just like Royalton have the conversations about, you know, can we make a school resource officer happen? Do we need to harden the points or close additional close additional doors coming into the school, and what does it look like to upgrade our technology to best serve the students of today and the facilities that we have today. Now, there's about 870,000 kids in schools across Minnesota, and obviously a vast variety of different school buildings, and there's a lot of ideas over how to secure schools. A number that has been floated by the governor and legislative leaders is that potentially $20 million could go to school districts where you could apply for grants to best, upgrade your school. But $20 million for the number of school districts that we have would be pennies compared to the greater need. And other proposals have suggested that it might cost just shy of $1 billion to secure the schools across the state. And so as we deliberate on school safety, I certainly would desire your input on that topic and what would best fit you. I think that for us at the legislature, one thing that we don't want to do, at least from my perspective, is tell you how to protect your school. You know how to do that best from a board perspective or administrative perspective. And so if we can provide funding flexibility, which is a goal for Republicans on a whole host of fronts, that would be our desire. And so those are a few of the major topics of the moment. And with that, I will turn it over to you for any questions you might have for me.
So I've got one as far as Title IX. Well, there's federal dollars that come in, right? And I don't know what that number is, right? I think it's in the billions, right? So would they have the ability just to shut that out for the state of Minnesota? Like that's their plan? Like we talked about a state government saying we're going to continue to do this. Title IX is strictly federal, right? That was in the 70s, they started this Title IX thing, right? To the federal deal that all public schools that follow. So how does the state government overrule a federal ruling, and could they shut that money off? I mean, we're always talking about funding. We need to follow the rules, otherwise to shut funding off, right? So is that really what we're looking at, is to shut all federal funding off to Minnesota?
While I can't speak for the Trump administration or their direct action, what I would point you to is what they have done on other topics during the course of this year. Whether, the premise of DOGE and wanting to stop waste, fraud, and abuse in government, and even, whether it's been some clean energy projects, transportation dollars, different things that they have done to stop funding. And especially when there is federal law that they have to point to and make the case in court, I think that that's an action that they probably would consider. And so and my understanding, using kind of a broad stroke here, is that education funding from the federal level to local schools is approximately 8% of school budgets. Now, that might not be the direct number for Royalton, but you know, that's the barometer that I have heard spoken kind of across the state, is about 8% of every school budget is federal funding. And so I think that there's a possibility that at least in the short term, or until that is played out in court, that could be withheld for school districts across the state. At that point, like, that obviously creates quite a political rub when you've got a whole bunch of districts across the state that just had referendums a week ago to you know, the major school districts in the Twin Cities that face very heavy budgetary challenges, right? These are things that are really going to impact communities for not doing what's right by the kids and protecting spaces for women and for girls.
To have a little more on the idea of flexible spending and some of the, you know, line items and the mandates that came through last biennium. You know, we're looking at trying to get a school resource officer, and I'm the treasurer, and just trying to navigate all the fiscal restraint. You know, like, will the funds go to, or allocated to this space, or you can only allow these 3 options under this, you know, whatever line item. So what progress do you think, or what's the real percentage that they're gonna loosen up on some of those types of restrictions and restructure that?
It's a pertinent question, and it's an evergreen question. So that is a conversation that takes place every single year at the legislature. How can we make the funding able to suit the students best in Minneapolis and in Royalton and in Moorhead all at the same time? And it's every school district seeks to meet the needs of their community, and their students and their parents best. And yet there are times that I see, especially when at the legislature, where some of my colleagues get elected to the legislature and carry a great deal of passion over education, and it could be over other areas too, but they carry such a level of passion over their topic that they could just get elected to their local school board and implement it in their community. But instead they take their idea, they get elected to the state legislature and say, this is such a great idea that I don't just want to institute it in Eagan, but I want to institute it all across the state. And then if they rise to some level of political prominence or power, then they do implement that. And that really is what happened when we saw those 65 mandates last year. The Republican priority has been to make that funding as flexible as possible over the bevy of different areas. You know, I'm looking at just a giant list of different education funding mechanisms right on my sheet here in front of me. And a lot of times those dollars get absolutely tied into specific things from the legislative lens. And that's not my preference. But it is something that, until we're able to achieve more political change in Minnesota, that I anticipate is going to continue. But I also should touch on just the political moment and time that we're in here in Minnesota. It's easy for us to think about our lives just through the lens of Royalton, Minnesota, Morrison County, or Benton County, and say, you know, we're dealing with these set of headwinds. We've got these statewide elected officials, and nothing's ever going to change. But I need to kind of encourage you for a moment, because when you look across all 50 states across the United States, there is no state that is more equally divided politically than Minnesota is. Most states are either hard right or hard left. And it's a constant battle for ideas in Minnesota, because the state legislature right now has an equal number of Republicans and Democrats. And that's how closely divided this state is. And it's a battle for ideas. It's a battle in our communities. And it's a reason why for any voter or for any parent or for the next generation of students, as you're considering what it's gonna be like when you leave school, that you should be really engaged civically in the future of our country. So it's a really, really neat time to be a part of this, and so.
I have one along that same vein. This year was the first year that we didn't get funding for both years of the biennium. It was the percent that we got for the first year, and then next year was C, which is really hard to budget anything if we do a 2-year contracts and things like that. Is that gonna be the way of the future, or is that just a 1 year, we need to fix some things and we're gonna do something different next year type of thing?
That's a very good question. The state overspent 2 years ago. We had a nearly $20 billion budget surplus. And our budget at that time had been 52 billion. They went all the way up to 72 billion with ongoing spending at 66+ billion dollars. And when you do that, when you are so unsustainable in the model that you build, I'm not surprised that we're now projected. We were earlier this year projected to have a $6 billion budget deficit in the out years. This legislature cut it to 2.5 billion in terms of a deficit. So we made essentially $3.5 billion worth of cuts. But school districts are the ones that are gonna have to deal with that level of uncertainty as we figure out what the state budget is going to look like moving forward. So when you talk about, or when we talk about the next election and what that's gonna look like, it's all about how this gets sorted out. And it's my belief that it's gonna go one way or the other, and we might not be in this middle ground where it's just equally divided and like both sides are at the table. I actually think the next election, given we have the governor's race in the statewide offices, that it's either gonna go all Republican or all Democrat in the next election. Now, I could be wrong, but we could see sea change in that, and there's gonna be different approaches to how to tackle those challenges. I would assume that if Democrats were to get complete control, they will raise taxes significantly to cover the gap in the budget. I certainly think we've been overspending, and so from a Republican and conservative perspective, we're gonna try and roll back a whole lot of new programs that were created a couple of years ago, but the state should have never been in the business of. In addition to stopping the over $1 billion worth of fraud that we've seen. That previous legislature gave $1 billion to nonprofit organizations. Not state entities, not school districts, nonprofit organizations of the politically well-connected. Those are the decision points that we'll have in that 2027 budget. And so in the short term, I don't anticipate that you're going to have a whole lot of certainty until after that 2027 election. And maybe I can come back to you, this time next year to give a preview of what that would look like.
No. Thank you. Any questions from you guys?
Listen.
I also want to just take a moment and congratulate you all on that T-Mobile amount of money and that big win. I was glad to check in every day and make sure that I was voting for the several weeks straight. And I think that that's really cool, and it was fun to showcase you all on a statewide basis and to see Minnesota rally around you. And what you got, was it somewhere close to 300,000 votes, or was it more than that?
I think it was close to 400,000. We ended up 5th overall,
Good place.
which when we started, like after the first day, I think we started in like 13th place, so. Never really stopped like a lot of the other schools when we did this, they're too far away from the top 2.
Awesome job and congratulations. And that's what community is about, right? We all rallied around, and I think we got a lot of help from our neighbors around here too. So way to go. Awesome.
Thank you. All right, any other questions? All right, anything closing beyond that?
No, I would just continue to encourage communication. Wayne, congratulations to you, and I look forward to working with you closely. And I just encourage that your time contacting me doesn't have to just be at the once annual or the time that I come before the school board, but just feel free to reach out whenever. And I really do appreciate the input. Oftentimes, whether it's administrators or school board members, when they travel to the Capitol and share some local perspective, it's always helpful for me. And keep in mind that I don't always know exactly what the challenge is being faced in your school district, and what's happening in Royalton is likely different from Malacca or Sauk Rapids Rice, and I represent all three, right? And so it's really helpful to have your input. So thank you so much for giving me this time. It's super valuable to me, and I appreciate the.
Well, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. All right.
Yep. So, we will go to, our presentation from the Spanish Club.
So tonight we have, 3 students that went on the Spanish trip that will happen in June, right?
Yep.
And you were gone for 2 weeks?
17 days.
17 days, and then their, teacher, Blake Matheson, who was also along with the trip, so they will talk us through kind of what they witnessed and experienced, and yeah.
Yeah, so we were invited here to kind of talk about Spanish Club, and this is one of the components of the things that we do in Spanish Club is plan this trip. This was the first trip since 2015, and which was multiple years before I even came here, but I came here right in the thick of COVID, so then we were very cautious for a while, not wanting to plan things and then have to cancel them. So I would love to be able to make this a routine kind of recurring trip that happens every couple of years. And so this one was our jump back into the pool of taking, going around with students.
Okay, so we started our trip in Iceland. We flew from MSP to, was it Reykjavik? Reykjavik, Iceland. And we were just there all day. And we did a lot of sightseeing. So, like, this is when we were landing. It was kind of weird because you fly in and you don't see the land until you're, like, there. It was pretty weird. And then this is what they call the Golden Circle, which it was a huge waterfall. I don't know if you can tell, but these are people walking and they're standing right there too. That kind of shows you how big it is. And then we also saw the Blue Lagoon, which I am sure many of you guys have heard of. It's like a giant, what is it, hot spring? Yeah, hot spring. So we got to swim in that, which was cool. And then other places, because we did like a big bus tour all day.
Yeah, it was like, what, 12 hours?
It was a long day. It was long time, right? It was awesome. Okay, so the first city we visited in Spain was Madrid. Most of the stuff we did here was like sightseeing of museums and like Capitol buildings. Yeah, monumental buildings. A lot of like older stuff, more learning opportunities here. Spent what, three days there? 3 or 4?
We did a bus tour too. And we got to look to the whole city and
A lot of walking.
cool.
Yeah.
Really fun.
So much fun.
And then
To Segovia.
and we met a teacher that taught around here, he lives there now. And he showed us around and took us to this castle and there's a big wall. It was like this
We were only here for a day.
An aqueduct.
And we were only here for 1 day, but we got to like a really nice local fruit shop and it was really good. It was really fun. We walked a lot that day too.
In Toledo, we got there and with fire bus and we all went ziplining there, which was cool, like over this river. I don't know if you guys get it. Yeah. Then it was kind of a day to tour on your own, but we went and saw this cathedral, which was super cool. And then these are kind of what the streets look like there. They're really small and somehow cars get through them, not frequently, but they do. And yeah, it was really fun.
He was our awesome waiter, And he taught us how to say, we want our checks split up, so we can do it on our own.
This was Cadiz. It was the first city we visited. I was like on the coast. So we kind of jumped into more like exciting things here. One of them was surfing, and yeah, it was a smaller city, so we were able to like go off on adventures in like smaller groups and kind of do our own thing sometimes.
And then we went, it looks like Seville, but in Spain they pronounce it Sevilla, which is really hot. It was like 109 degrees. But we got to go to this like museums, and we went on horse carriage rides. There's riding and Profe and Henry and Dawn. And it was really fun. We went through the whole city, and we went to a flamenco, which is like they perform with their
Common performance in Spain.
Which was really
they
cool.
tap the feet around and clap backwards.
Well,
Very lovely.
And then we left Spain, well, not really, we went to mainland and went to the Canary Islands, so we went to Tenerife, which was really cool, it was very, like, resort-like. We did a lot of walking and touring. I don't know, it was really pretty, a lot of more sightseeing. Then, yeah, there's just more pictures from there, since we spent. This was a giant bus tour, all these pictures were from.
Yeah.
Bus
There's like
tour, down whole.
mountains everywhere, so we went up like the entire mountain one day, we went to the top, and that's where we saw this, and we were like above the clouds. We did star gazing and.
This one's kind of hard to see, but like, this is all the buildings down here, people are, and like our bus is up here, the tiny little road. That's like a whole city down there, whole town. It was cool.
Very windy roads, lots of
Bus there.
trying not to get busted.
Yeah, and not fitting other cars, we had to help everyone.
That's all I
It was cool.
Yeah, that's all we have.
Oh,
Thank you for approving our trip, because it was a lot of fun.
it was really fun.
Do you guys have to use a lot of Spanish when you're there, or?
Yeah, we tried our best.
We went to a place where if you looked off on the side, you could see Morocco.
Oh.
So we got some like authentic Moroccan food, which was cool.
Yeah, I would say probably for you guys anyway, it was mostly ordering food, going to stores.
Yeah.
Interacting with the shop.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, a lot of people know English there, though.
Oh my God.
Spanish stuff, they speak English back.
From a European country standpoint, I would say that they are very low English speaking. From other countries, so like the Croatian, as you get into the Balkans, that's about 90% speak English, for shopkeepers and stuff like that. I bet it was about 25%, at least shopkeepers. And didn't matter the age range really for that, like, but there was a communication barrier and we were gonna buy fruit and we were gonna get there eventually. It was pretty good. That's the one thing, one question I have for you guys is, talking about the difference in foods that are over there versus here. You know, the one day, it was lunch from a grocery store that was completely different. You couldn't buy the same stuff that we have here. So you want to talk about some of your
Yeah,
favorite things?
We like did a little pre-order when we were still here of like a restaurant, and we all picked steak to save safe.
Really cool.
And then we got there, and it was steak, but it was not the steak that we have here.
Also, like, each place you went to in Spain varied so much too. Like,
Yeah.
when we were in Spain, I was like, with secret pork, which.
So we ate it. It was good.
And then we would go to the island and we had octopus, and that was
Nasty.
And goat, cheese. It was.
Oh, yeah. Some stuff was a lot healthier, and then some stuff, there was like a 7-course meal, and then I can't eat more of this.
But there was always bread, so if you didn't like it, yeah.
Yeah, I would say the comment I heard most from the students and then from the chaperones from the other school that we joined with it too was the freshness of the food, that there was just significantly less prepackaged food. Not that it wasn't available if you went to the supermarket, but just food meals were fresher, but the composition of the foods was different than students were used to. And so then you guys also ate a lot of pizza. Like, oh, we have a lunch free, let's find a pizza place.
I know,
But
it wasn't a
it
pizza.
wasn't gonna be like Domino's, but it was something a little bit more.
It was also kind of different, like, we would be walking down the street and they'd have like meat markets, but it's like 108 degrees outside and the meat's just hanging there. And people are still gonna buy it and whatever that, but I'd rather not know.
I'd say another like highlight of our trip is, we went and visited our like past foreign exchange students, so we met with Paula, who's from Madrid.
She was here 4 years ago.
We're ninth graders, so like we knew her, and then Maria flew actually to where we were, and she stayed in a hostel and spent the day with us, so that was fun too.
To reconnect with some students that had come here. Spent a year with us, so.
Was your experience with the locals, were they overall friendly or were they warm and welcoming or were they kind of standoffish? Because I know when I went to experience Rome, obviously.
I think for the most part, they were friendly. A lot of times they just laughed at us, because if we were gonna interact with them, they thought it was funny.
And like, I'll just spend the rest of 2 minutes just like,
Yeah,
we're
like,
gonna actually do something.
for Rich to actually ask them.
Yeah.
But I'd say overall it was positive. Yeah. They could immediately tell that we were American. To be that clear.
Or else they didn't put like 50 or 60.
Yeah.
Were you able to find your way around, read the signs, understand where you're at?
Well, like Madrid's huge, so like when Paula came, she took a train, and it took her an hour or hour and a half to get from one side of Madrid to the middle part where we were, so like, we did not go by ourselves in Madrid. But like the smaller areas like Toledo, we would go out on our own.
Yeah, usually we just use our phone maps.
Yeah.
Because we have, didn't have the paper ones and.
We got
Can't
hands on,
say I
there was
was
this big
looking
hill.
at.
We were like on this like map quest, and we're walking, all of a sudden it's sunny out, and just hail coming down us everywhere, we like go against walls and. It's really funny.
So, I noticed you said that the Spanish trip was gonna be every couple of years. How is that gonna interfere with like the band cruises that they usually go on?
Yeah, that is tricky, given that they're every 3, right?
The band cruises, we did it 3 this last year because, or well, we're doing it 3 this year. Because a lot of the choir kids weren't able to go when we went last year, but typically it'll be every 4 years.
Okay.
So if there's a way to like plan around that, because I know some kids are in both band and Spanish and they want to experience both. So it's really hard to like, if you plan those all in one year, they're expensive trips, so it's hard to do both, so if there's a way that we could like space and holiday.
Yeah, I think it was nice that they did not coincide, before, but now they are going to on this year, so that's something we'll have to talk about. I agree, it is not ideal, but it
Yeah.
seems like it's either gonna coincide with one thing, or it'll coincide with drama, or it'll coincide with,
Yeah,
you know, there's always gonna kind of be something, but it's the flex with the two, which is why we were so lucky. With all the fundraising we were able to do and the really extremely generous donations, that we got, and we're gonna hope that we can continue in that same, along that same path, so that we can make, even if it does coincide, that we can make the trips as accessible to as many students as possible.
All right, well, thank you for the presentation.
Yeah.
Superintendent's report.
Okay, October 28th, we, a few of us met and with our strategic planning group at the Elementary Media Center. We had Andy, David, Tony, Joel, Caitlin missed out. Jennifer was there, and each one of them spoke to their department or their buildings and where we're moving with things this year. We started off by highlighting what was accomplished last year, data dashboards, academic and athletic. That's something on our website that Caitlin has set up. And it shows, I don't know if you've seen it or you seen that? It actually shows the how many students are involved in either courses or athletics. Then there's the 5th and 6th grade transitional plan last spring and into this school year in August, September. the refinement of the communication plan, and then the pilot of the apprenticeship program this year. Some action items for this year, expansion of community ed programming, community ed advisory council, meetings for that are scheduled throughout the year. A more secure camera system. I think there's 29, I believe, new ones we're getting, and I know you'll touch on that probably later, yeah. The capstone requirement for graduation, character strong curriculum, the READ Act, Closing the Achievement Act, those types of things. The SRO, reunification planning, and then some refinement, I guess I'd say, as far as our communication plan with the website, making it more user-friendly and streamlining our communication plan as far as how we communicate or are able to communicate with our people, our community. Just some suggestions that I had and look for feedback, I guess, is to add security as a strategic priority. Number 6, where now we have 5 priorities, adding a 6th one that would encompass school resource officer, reunification planning, the camera system. And then adding the strategic priority number 4, that's highly effective communication. So getting a more well-designed website, and moving to what's called Parents Where, it's a hosted website for that. And then it also has some pieces towards communication, I guess, streamlining that one better. And again, I mean, our people did a fantastic job presenting on their departments and their areas. What did I call you guys? All stars? No, that was, they are. I know there's probably some questions about the SRO. We had sat in at the city council meeting last week, and our Jason had invited me there to kind of just be there, but there was, I think he had a plan going in that their budgetary meeting, everything was fine. He's got enough dollars in his budget to make it go, and there were some questions as far as city dollars versus school dollars. Not so much how much we're offering, I don't think, but I think the biggest piece that I took, and you heard it too when you were there, but there's some questions as far as if it's should be all city dollars or if it should be more of a county type of thing. Like one of the questions was, should it be the sheriff's department instead of the city? You know, our students are not just Royalton students, they're several other students, using that as a perspective, I guess. So Jason still doesn't feel like it'll be he still thinks it'll be a go, but they're having on the agenda out there 25th special meeting,
which will give us clarification on what they actually are looking for. So that's kind of what they're going back to, because there was a lot of questions that came up at the meeting. So like, we need to get together with our budget and actually analyze this and figure out what we're talking about and what we're asking for, if we're gonna do that. So,
I mean, yeah, and so the dollars that I had proposed was 56,000, and that's all towards South. Well, then the questions, they want to line in budget on everything there, all the expenses, right down to FICA. All these different, so anyway. Well, stay tuned. One more thing, I was gonna touch on ADMs. We have, as of today, 918 students, and then we budgeted for 916 this year. It's kind of hovering around that 916 to 920 since the start of school. So hopefully we don't drop under that 916, so we need to talk to the principals and start doing some recruiting. Yeah. So.
We were running higher than that last year, right? Because 916 was a conservative number.
Yeah. Well, we started at 929, I think, day one, and it dropped after we gone to about that 920. It's been around that. But I know every other year, it seems like it's either higher or lower, because one year was 907.
Yeah, and there's still.
It's consistently been low 5.
I would have thought that school closing in Granville, that we would have seen a little bit more enrollment here. Especially if this villager filled up immediately, we closed for enrollment. I thought that we would see some more flux in that, but. And no,
That's, I have. All right,
you said that the city council meeting was on the 25th.
25th.
All right, any other questions for Wayne? All right, business manager report.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, everyone. I'll turn on my video here. Sorry, I was doing some last minute calculating and missed my cue there. Okay, so this is the budget update through October 31, 2025. Looking at the general fund, we have collected 2,519,000 for revenues. Last year at this time, we were at 3,121,000. So we're at 20.4% of our budget collected, down a little bit compared to the prior year, primarily in property taxes and state aid. Special ed's kind of lagging behind the prior year pace, so I think it's just a timing thing, like metering out payments. Also, this time of year, we can be impacted by the reversal of the June 30 receivable. So this year's receivable on June 30th was larger than last year. So that was kind of complicated, but it results in a negative revenue, and then we have to collect the 10% holdback. So that'll work itself out. All in all, I'd say revenues are coming in on target, so nothing alarming there. On the expenditure side, salaries and benefits, we should track super close to the prior 2 years. When we look at last year's spending as a percent of final, so this year we're at 19.8% of our budget through October 31. Last year we were at 19.6% of where we ended up. And 2 years ago, we were at 19.9% at this time of where we ended up. So one thing to keep in mind is we do have some settlements still coming in yet. So, but right now, where we're tracking today as a percent of budget, we're right where we should be. On the benefit side, we are down a little bit compared to last year. When we look at percent of budget versus percent of final, comparable to 2 years ago. So, and then overall spending, we're at 2,931,000. Last year, we're at 2,989,000. So we're down about 58,000. And overall, we're at 24.2% of our budget. Last year, we were at 24.7%. So again, expenses are looking good and on track. By program series, I won't go through that in detail. Just these same numbers summarized by program series. And then we got the other funds here, food service, not a whole lot of activity through October. I don't believe September meals have actually been posted yet. Actually, I know they haven't. I need to claim those meals here in the next day or so. And then that revenue will come in later in November here. Community education, we're down in revenue a bit compared to last year at this time. Debt service, looks like we had some taxes collected last year through October, not yet posted this year. Spending is up a little bit in food service, about 15,000, 16,000 up in community education. And debt service payments are up a bit, 130, 230,000 or so. So that is the current budget update through October 31. Any questions on that? All right, then I want to switch gears here a little bit to look at our preliminary financial results for FY25. So we made a lot of progress here in the last week. Even today, we had some kind of final adjustments to post. I'd say we are near complete with the audit. I spoke with the lead auditor today. She is basically at the point where she's reviewing the staff's work, and if all looks good, there might be some follow-up questions, probably some expenditure and revenue variances to explain things like that, analytical stuff, but the lion's share of the work is done. So they are planning on presenting to the board on December 8th. Not sure if that was the original plan, but that is, they will have everything wrapped up here in the month of November and ready to present then. So looking at then where our kind of results are coming in at, our unassigned fund balance went from 1,927,000 to 1,775,000, down 152,522. When you look at the fund balance as a percent of expenditures, we went from 15.8% to 14.7%, which is down 1.2%. Our restricted fund balances overall, those are down as well, or actually, sorry, up 296,000, with the biggest increase coming in the area of LTFM, which increased 202,918. Our non-spendable fund balance decreased by 13,000, and the assigned fund balance increased by 69,458. So the total general fund was up 199,838 for the year, increasing from 2,425,000 to 2,625,815. So one thing we could do is we could still take a look at our fund balances that are restricted. And we talked about this a little bit at a finance committee, is do we want to shift expenditures around to potentially bring down our restricted fund balances and bump up our unassigned? Sometimes there's expenditures that were coded to unassigned that we could shift to these areas, but we are close to final. So we can continue to chat about that, but this is where we're at right now as of today. Food service had positive results, ending up 12,148. Our ending fund balance is at 181,125. The community services fund, all that fund are positive except for school readiness, and that deficit went from a negative 21,000 to a negative 90,000. And then we have the debt service fund, which we have our fund balance there of 439,016. That's down 9,098 compared to the prior year. Any questions, comments on our financial results for last year?
How do we continue to spend on school readiness to go from a negative to further negative?
So school readiness is a program that, I'm sorry, I didn't totally hear your question. Could you repeat it?
Just for school readiness, how do we go from starting off at the negative and then going further negative? Is that from funds going, or expenditures going just towards that fund? And then how do we correct that?
So I don't know the whole history here, but I know school readiness is very difficult to break even in. I don't know, Wayne, if you're up to speed on this, but I know a lot of districts use their school readiness program. They invest in it to get the youngsters into the school district and into the programming. If you have a teacher or a couple teachers here, often this is going to run negative. So I have districts that are negative like 600,000 in this fund, and it's a conscious decision to invest in that programming, knowing they're not going to be able to get in the black, if you will. So I'm not sure if that's the case. I've only been with the district here a couple months. This,
So this is
of course, did jump out at me today when I saw this. It's going quite a bit further in. That's something I can dive into in the next couple days and have a conversation with Wayne about. But
this is our preschool dollars, right? Is that what we're
yeah,
talking about?
yep.
Preschool? Okay.
Yep, Fund 4 preschool.
Preschool, so yeah, we're well aware of that, just calling it something different. All right, any other questions for, cool. All right, thank you, Todd. I'm not gonna forget it this time, we'll do the principal's report.
Chairs Holm and Hofstad, members of the board, Superintendent Hard. Just a handful of updates here, coming in the last month. We had conferences the 28th and the 30th. They went well, busy building, a lot of energy, a lot of smiles. We had a 94% rate to come in the conference. And then those that didn't come in, we were still in contact, calling home, making sure they were checked in. That Friday was a packed house for the Halloween parade. People were parking all the way down by the fire department, down the road. There was people just kept streaming in. It was a pretty well attended event, so it was fun to see the costumes, and that capped off a crazy week.
Led by the elementary principal.
Elvis was in the building.
Just like Elvis.
He needs to bring it down a level. A lot of struggle from my kids out there. Just like,
Wow, they thought, oh geez, if this is the guy from Lilo instead. No, he was a guy, he was a person. No, it was fun. It was a good day. Tomorrow's our Veterans Day program. Just remember that, 8:45 in the elementary gym. We have a program inviting people in. Our fifth graders set up chairs as some of them came over a band and they were able to help us set up, and they'll help us take down tomorrow as well. But Veterans Day program tomorrow, 8:45 elementary gym, and then about a half hour later, 9:15, come on over here to the Commons. And then there'll be a breakfast, free breakfast for veterans. So doing that all tomorrow. It's a fun thing. We got some speakers coming in, talking to kids at the elementary school. So it's gonna be another good day. This Friday is our first PD day for the school year for teachers. And this is our first of 4 in-service days for our Letters Live. So we're on volume 2. This is our first one of our 4 for the year. And that's an 8 to 3:30 full day of stuff set around vocabulary. So that's gonna be a good day for teachers. Also that day, it's our first of 2 days for our support staff. So state legislature, support staff, professionals, volunteers, they need to get literacy trained. So this is the first half of that training. The second half of the training is April 27th. That's the last PD day for the school year in school. And it's the same topics as what teachers are doing for their letters. It's just a pared down version to get them what they need so that they can support our kids as they do interventions, tier 2 interventions, doing pull-up stuff, push in, just to make sure that they're on board. The feedback I've gotten from principals that have already started this in our district literacy meetings is it's been positive. They're asking, why didn't we do this training for our understanding a lot sooner? So I've heard nothing but good feedback. Sourcewell is leading that PD for us. And so it's gonna be a good day full. We got 31 support staff coming over to the elementary, 8 to 12:30 on Friday. And the last thing is before our next school board meeting is we have our Christmas concerts already. We're already thinking about that. Thursday, December 4th in the South Gym, grades 1 through 3 have their Christmas concert. So we have 2 shows for public, 1:30 and 6 o'clock shows. So it's Thursday, December 4th. That's all I have.
All right, any questions for Tony? All right. Do you have anything for high school?
Trying to think if there's anything big, not that I can think of, and like Tony said, we'll be doing the veterans breakfast at 9:15 following the elementary program. I know this last month, student council was busy doing some stuff, it's October, so they were bringing in donations of socks to be able to give out. I think November is the homeless and hungry awareness kind of month, so there have some things and not as extreme as what October was, but some things there, and then getting ready probably for activities day in December, so. And then turkey bingo as well. Oh, turkey bingo.
You guys are next, so.
So yeah, I mean, things are going pretty good. My understanding, you know, the last couple of days we've had a fair amount of kids out because they're out hunting. Huh? Yeah.
Yeah, there's some of that. All right, for our student section here, what do you guys have for,
So like Ms. Arnson said, we just wrapped up October. We ended up donating 589 items. We gave that over to Ms. Weir for the care closet, and then she was also gonna distribute it out to some other places that she knew of. We didn't quite reach our goal of 1,000, but it was still a heck of a lot of things that we gathered, and then we got to pie Swenson in the face, so that was really fun. And then Abigail Thomas, you want to talk about national, awareness?
Yes, so last year was brought up that students wanted to start celebrating National Hunger and Homelessness Awareness. We're specifically celebrating it the week before Thanksgiving. So basically just draw students' attention to things outside of our school. So we're gonna be asking the janitors to do simple things like count how many garbage bags we go through every day at breakfast and lunch. Just so students have an awareness of it. And then we're gonna do wear the change day on Friday. So we're gonna have students wear orange. We're not entirely sure if that's the color that represents that day, but it seems to be what, a lot of the websites dedicated to that showing, so.
So just do a quick dress up day, just for fun, just throw something out there and just to get them thinking about stuff.
We're passing out free stickers, so that's always fun.
Yeah, and then we've got turkey bingo coming up, so that'll be the last day before break. Basically, students will come in and they'll buy bingo cards. Everyone gets a free card per round. And then they can buy extra ones to increase their chances, and then we're gonna donate that as well to, I believe, the care closet.
We were between that or a local homeless shelter.
So donating that as well, and then we're thinking about Christmas activities already, so trying to just plan a fun day, no fundraising with that other than like hot cocoa. But then just having a last fun activity day for break.
And when is the middle school activity night?
That's Friday, November 21st. Middle schoolers are planning that. We separated the high school and middle school councils this year. To let middle schoolers have a little bit more creative liberty with stuff, because I know in the past they haven't had a lot of experience on the council. You basically just showed up and listened, so we're trying to give them a little bit more initiative, so they planned a activity night, so it'll be like a dance, they'll have open gym concessions and stuff like that, so they're taking the reins on that.
awesome. Anything else? Any questions from the board? All right, well, thank you for doing that. I know a lot of the students look forward to the activity days. To do some of those things, especially bingo, you can yell bingo.
And gobble down the hallways.
Yeah.
The one time you get to run down the hallways without getting in trouble.
All right, well, thank you. Next, technology, David.
All right. We have a busy year ahead of us here. We are currently in the process of migrating from the Skyward SMS system, which we're currently on, which is our student information system, to the Skyward Cumulative system, which is their new version of Skyward. We started this process this summer in July with some cleanup of duplicate accounts that were in Skyward. We've been removing old reports, fixing phone numbers that weren't formatted correctly, and fixing addresses that weren't formatted correctly, and just different things like that, doing all kinds of cleanup. The secretaries, guidance office, nurses, and admin, just this last week, I went through some training with them, showing them where they're going to go in the system, to actually go do training, where they will be, watching different videos, and then they can take that video and apply what they just learned in that video into a database, a sandbox database that we have, where Skyward took a snapshot of our database and our current SMS database in October and put that in queue so that our people can go in and actually use live data or our data for things to practice to kind of learn the new cumulative system. So they, most everybody, I have a few that I still need to get to that weren't able to be at that training, but I will be doing that here soon so that they can get started as well. And there's different deadlines that they will need to meet. It's going to be from here on out, it's going to be a heavy lift for some of these users, especially the secretaries and guidance office, just because of the different areas that they touch. There's a lot of stuff that those different jobs touch within the student information system. So they have a lot of different learning to do, but we're hoping to be able to kind of set away some side time for them to be able to take care of some of the different things that they need to do. The other thing, so the teacher gradebook piece will be also updated along with the family access and student access. So all of that will be rolled out for next school year. The camera system. So I applied for the MDE building and cybersecurity grant towards the end of August. Royalton was allotted up to $50,000, and we received that $50,000 for that. We decided we were going to use that on upgrading our video management system. So that would be our camera server. So that will take all of our existing cameras, add it to that server. And then we're also going to be purchasing about 29 new cameras that will be spread out throughout the buildings in new locations. Some are going to be replacing existing cameras. And the ones that are replacing existing cameras, it's just going to give, the new cameras will just give a better view or a wider view of the different areas. One new location that we're putting in is playground by the ECC. Currently there is nothing down there, but we are putting in a light pole, and then there will also be a camera there for some security, and then up by the bus garage. So the install, they are going to be coming tomorrow to get started with that. So And I believe the electrical and cement work for the light pole was done last week, so. New communication platform, so that's the other thing we're working on. So Parent Square will be replacing, School Messenger. And then Smart Sites, will be replacing the Wix website. Which Smart Sites ties in with Parent Square. So Parent Square is an all-in-one, school to home communication platform. It centralizes, your email, text, app, voice messages all into kind of one, platform. Everything will just kind of be in that one location. You can log into an app, you can log into a website, or you can get it in email. Kind of however people want to receive those, communications. It's a secure two-way communication between staff and families. And it's designed specifically for, K through 12, school districts. It's a district, school, and classroom level, communication. Direct messaging and group posts you can do from it. It allows for more emergency notifications. We can do different calendar and event management from it. And then it will also integrate with, social media and the new district website. The Smart Sites works on all platforms, so whether you're on a tablet or a computer, if you resize the website, it will resize according to what device you're on and whatnot. And it's not, that's probably one of the biggest complaints that we get with our website right now is it is not friendly with mobile devices. So. The benefit to the stakeholders for Parent Square, so families, will just kind of have a one platform for all communication, simple and, consistent experience. For staff, it'll be streamlined, a streamlined workflow, fewer redundant tools, and for administration, it provides analytics on communication, reach and engagement, oversight, and consistency across all the schools. So, questions?
Just a comment, thanks for taking the time to apply for that grant.
Okay, I may have missed this, but did Anita rise that there's more security cameras being purchased, or was this just, part of the overall initiative?
So we just have some areas where you could call them, I guess, dead spots and whatnot, where there just wasn't a whole lot of coverage and whatnot. And so that's why we're just covering some of the areas where we have some areas. So another location, for instance, is at the corner of the building over here. It's an outdoor camera and whatnot, but it would be like by Mr. Shane Rock's room. But it should get a little bit of that corner, kind of the sidewalk over there and, the grassy area out there. There's not a whole lot of coverage out there. The cameras that are over there aren't picking that type of stuff up. So just different areas that just needed better coverage. So.
The other big part of that is the server upgrade that goes with that, because
Yep.
we wanted to kind of start that about 5 years ago, and we've never had the money to actually do it once we worked on the exterior of the building and that stuff. So it's been on the want need list for quite a while.
Yeah, the majority of the cost of this project is the server. So.
I have a couple of questions for you. Transferring from the Skyward SMS to the cumulative system, what was the purpose of doing that? Is SMS gonna be obsolete and we have to move, or?
So Skyward has a sunset date, or has kind of set a sunset date for, and they set this last year. for about 4 years for Minnesota schools to be off of the SMS system. So they're kind of starting to force the Minnesota schools to do it. So we made the decision last November, December-ish to kind of go that route. The nice thing about the family portion of it is the app for cumulative is a lot more user-friendly than the current one. The issue we really run into a lot is people want to use their mobile devices for filling out the online registration, those types of things for the new school year, and you really can't with the current system. You can, but it's not user friendly. This will be much more user friendly. You can do it right from the app. So.
I got, my second question is, on the Parent Square, so when we, transition over to this Parent Square, is that going to, so you say it's gonna replace School Messenger, but will it replace like, Seesaw and all these other smaller applications and other forms of communications that is it gonna streamline everybody communicating through the same process, same app? Or not?
So, I mean, yes and no. It really depends upon the app and whatnot. Some of the applications, yes, we'll be able to move away from them, some of them we won't. And whatnot, and so we're looking at which ones that'll be.
Questions. Thank you.
That was my question too, is from gaining this, what can we lose? You know, that we won't need anymore on the backside. The other question I had is, you know, in what is it, in the next year or the next 2 years, we have to have the website accessibility. Is this going to bring us to where that needs to be compliant with that?
Yep. So that's part of our building process as we're going through this, is that they work with us to make sure that we're ADA compliant and stuff like that. We have to also make sure that the things that we're linking to are ADA compliant. Which I know right now that's probably not the case, but we'll be working on that stuff soon.
Yep. Like scan things with signatures on them and figuring out how to.
Right.
How somebody can read that if they can't see it online.
Yep.
That's neat. Thing to do. All right, any other questions for David? All right, we will move to the consent agenda. So the board is consenting to approve items listed below as presented at one time. At any point, the director can pull an item off the consent agenda for further discussion. So the first one is approval of the regular board meeting minutes. Next is approval of claims, accounts, and financials. Approval of personnel changes. Approval of employee handbook change for the Minnesota Leave Act section. Approval of creative planning agreement for business management services. Approval of substitute teacher pay increase. Approval of the REM memorandum of understanding. And approval of the state of Minnesota plan for the Leave Act. And the approval of the final policy reading. There's one backside. For the policies. Does somebody is there anything anybody would like to pull? All right, does somebody want to move the consent agenda?
I'll move it.
Director Wilson, thank you. I'll second. Director Andrews, thank you. Any discussion? Yep.
I have one question on the claims, accounts, and financials. So I see 2 withdrawals for Midstate. There was one on 10-2 for the 41,000, and then we have another draw for them on 10-30 for 83,000. 2 draws in 1 month. I can't remember how the Midstate payment plan works, so can anyone refresh me as to why that was preferred?
I think that one of them was I think the 41,000 was something from last year, 24, 25. And there was a final payment, 83, I can't remember.
Yeah, there were two monthly bills from Midstate that we did not pay. And as we were doing the audit, the May one came up first, and that was that one, and then the June one came up recently, so or more recent, I guess. And Christine had asked Lisa to talk through it with business managers and all that stuff, so they were gonna do that, and then poof, everything was gone, and that sat, so. At least that's what I found out. All right, any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. Next on to Title IX discussion. Over to Director Hall.
All right, so, Isaac had touched base on it a little bit, and I guess as a four, I wanted to see, you know, if we wanted to submit something to the state of Minnesota. In our feelings on the Title IX issue, to protect the women's girls sports. That's, I mean, personally, I was one that signed the petition because it's a firm belief that there should be boys and girls sports in my eyes. But I mean, as far as a federal mandate, what are you guys feeling we should do? I mean, I know our school district alone can't make the decision for the state of Minnesota, but if we're not complying, then.
What have other districts done that have just decided to, I do know a separate,
Yeah, I do have like a Forest Lake letter that the board had submitted to the Attorney General. And yeah, Attorney General, Department of Education, so yeah, I don't know how far we want to go with that, or what everyone's opinion is. And whatever it is, it's fine, I know mine, and like I belong to the alliance, so.
Well, I think it shows support, you know, with what the federal government's doing, on a relative level. I mean, I think if it comes down to it, and the federal agencies come in and say, hey, we're gonna pull funding, we say, hey, well, look, we're trying to, you know, abide by the rules, and we want to do what's right. And obviously the state's not allowing it, so, you know, we're doing what we can as the board. I think it shows our constituents in the area where we're at. We get voted in by these people, and I've had people come up to me and ask me where we stand on it, or Royalton District, and
There's people paying attention, because after I signed it, I had district members reach out to me and thank me. So it is something people locally are paying attention to. I mean, district parents.
I don't see it hurting the district at all. Hey, we're willing to do what the federal government's telling us to do with a federal mandate. In my opinion, the state really doesn't have any oversight over that, in my opinion. Obviously, it's gonna go to courts, like I just said. But if we're willing to abide by those rules, then maybe the federal government comes out and says, okay, if you're willing to do it, then we're willing to give you your funding. I mean, everything's backed by funding. And I don't see what it hurts, to be honest with you. And if you want to see Forest Lakes, it's a very good letter. I mean, it's very well written up, obviously by their attorney, I would assume. But
Yeah, can you email that? Oh,
Yeah, I can email that to everybody.
yep.
Mhm.
do you know if there was a different outcome from Forest Lake sending that letter independently versus the coalition of school board members that signed the collective letter? I mean, both letters went to the same offices, I presume, right? Was there any other further?
I think the coalition went to a few extra people, but I think they did attorney general. State high school league and then, Department of Education. No, nothing.
So were they the school district that, was interviewed by a couple of news outlets or? Were they the ones that were in the news? I can't quite remember. I didn't watch it, but I'd seen it, kind of flash through news updates. I was just wondering how much further they got by collectively, sending this this is the school's whole intention versus this was
Just
individuals. I just wondered if
Piggyback
they.
up what Isaac said that, you don't know because the federal government shut down right now. I don't know. There has been anything done on a federal level with it. It is well, right? Yeah. And I wouldn't mind reaching out to one of these members and talking to them first. I'm sure they would.
I'd be fine if we wanted to draft something and approve it. To do that, probably have our attorney look over, or just
Right.
once over.
I would agree. I don't think it can hurt, and I feel like that we all have similar beliefs, and why not stand on that? If we're gonna, we might as well show our support and show the community that we're behind them.
Right.
Yeah. Any feedback from you, Lee?
Yeah.
I personally would appreciate if that, was something you guys took initiative to do. I'm the same opinion as you guys, so. Agreed, yeah.
We good on deadline?
Yeah, and I just wanted to see what everyone thought, because
I think we get it moving.
Yeah. We could probably do that before the next meeting too, I would think.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I don't understand that.
I would say we could probably forward that to our attorney, right? We just change the FL to Royalton thing, and if there's a few different verbiages, and then we want to change 100%.
Yep.
Yeah, it's written.
Yeah, very well.
All right, next is, approval of donation. The resolution. So, does anyone want to introduce the resolution and, waive the reading for our accepting donations resolution?
so moved.
Richard Trout, thank you. All right, so I talked about it at the beginning of the meeting, so, school board is, gratefully accepting following donations, which is $25,000 from the Royalton Fire Relief, toward the activities fund, and $3,000 from the St. Cloud Optimist Club, towards robotics. Does somebody want to second, this resolution?
I second.
Director Boyd? All right, and then can you call the roll?
Director Trout.
Aye.
Director Holm.
Aye.
Director Boyd. Aye. Director Andrews. Aye. And Director Huss.
Aye. All right. Thank you. All right, and then, we have the first policy reading, so these are, they're all new policies that are in the bin, so we haven't taken a look at them at all yet, so we're excited, at least this, last time it was coming out like that, so this time it's way nicer, so that's much better. All right, so the next, finance committee meeting is November 26th. I believe that's a Wednesday, right? At noon, so that's the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. Everybody's good on that day still? And then policy committee, same thing that afternoon, any conflicts? Awesome.
Should be good as well.
Awesome. And then, December 8th, we have truth and taxation, and Mandy's got the, stuff for that. And then we'll go basically directly into our regular board meeting, right after that. Anything else before we close this off? And you're gonna send that to us, and then
Yeah.
Wayne's gonna send it to,
Just send it up slowly.
yep, perfect. All right,
I do have one question on the donation dollars from the department. And that money that we're getting, how much is the grand total from the donation?
I think the last that I've heard, and I did get the list from Jamie, so I will be making sure all of the ones that haven't come through, you guys are come through, and I will be doing a post on social media. But I think the total ended up with everything, including stuff from T-Mobile, is 151,000.
Oh, wow.
That might include because they had scheduled a fundraiser right before they found out about the T-Mobile thing. That might include the money that they got from in there too, but it's still about $150,000.
And then, do we have set things we're gonna spend money on, or where is it gonna go? Just the football field or?
So, I mean, I've worked with Jamie, on kind of figuring out what is kind of what we wanna do. I know he has made it clear that he is all for also trying to help improve some of our track and field stuff. Granted, it's gonna be hard with the money to really put a lot of energy into it. But we also met with a general contractor who donated his services to kind of start getting an idea of what like the biggest thing is we want to extend out where currently the cement slab is by the press box, like basically another slab on each side, plus a whole nother row of the same length down below it to bring in more bleachers to add a little bit more permanent, in a sense, seating. I know we've got quite a few people that donated like cement work and excavating and stuff like that, so. That's our first big thing. The other thing they decided to use it is, use some of the funds, plus it'll come from a couple of the other different areas, but, they're getting a robotic, painter. Like, so it's called a turf tank, so it's pre-programmed for, football field, baseball field, softball, and it can also do some parking lot stuff, and it's GPS and it just does its thing. They did a demo and they did actually on the multi-purpose where they did the practice field, and it was pretty slick, and so not only will it save, human time, because instead of, especially like when they first do like the football field that first time, it's like 2 to 3 days of going through, laying out the lines and painting it and stuff like that. It'll cut it down by a lot, just the manpower, and then also, use of paint will also decrease, so in the long run, it will save us some money for the district.
So we painted like maroon and gold checkered or something like that?
It does come with like, we'll be able to put like a logo at the 50-yard line, and we actually are able, I think, to put stuff in the end zone too, that it comes programmed with it, so there's a couple other little added things that comes with it, so. And we decided to do a 3-year lease, just so that way, in say in 3 years, if they have a better product, and we can change versus being stuck with the system and having to.
And then there's a system here, and then somebody here's gonna be trained on it.
There'll be a fair amount of people that will get trained on it actually, so. I know a couple of the grounds people, plus probably a couple of different coaches, just so then that way. We have people around, like especially like come summer and stuff, cause it will be able to be used for baseball, softball, painting too, so.
Cool.
good. Great question.
I have one more question.
Yeah.
Piggyback off that, when it comes to track and field, I know like obviously the dirt track is the greatest need we have, but what are the other pressing needs that could be met? for Track.
So right now, they're that big cement, like asphalt square that really is meant for high jump, but because it's not like rubberized or anything on top. High jump, they actually practices inside, which means that they don't actually practice with spikes, can change stuff when it gets to meets. The track team actually just purchased a new runway for the long and triple jump, because the current one that we had was fully, and it didn't even go long enough for some of our kids to do their full approach on it. So they purchased a new runway to at least help kids out that way. We don't even have a spot for pole vault, which is an event, which would be nice to try to get, because I think we actually have a couple kids that would be excellent in it. And the other thing would be actually putting in the discus ring would be another big thing, which, I mean, it's just a cage and cement area and stuff, so there's some things that are possible. I know the track team is motivated to try to get some things done too. But they haven't done quite as much fundraising and stuff, so. And then a lot of those kids get pulled into other, other sports and stuff, so they haven't, so they'll maybe be working on asking a couple areas, or. Like firemen and stuff, see if they'd be willing to donate to help improve a little bit more in the area. Cause I did ask, where we got the runway, I did ask them what it would be if we did something similar for the high jump area. And I think they quoted us at like almost $19,000 for just the rubber, so.
Right. Let's see, does somebody want to make a motion to close the open meeting at 7:35 p.m. in accordance with 13D.05 for superintendent evaluation?
Motion.
Director Holm, thank you.
Second.
Director Crowe, thank you. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. And we are